Hello, welcome to What's Up in Real Estate. My name is Brian Stuckey. We've got a hot program for you, maybe even hotter than the weather outside. And I've got three guests who are realtors in the Valley, and they are outstanding realtors. I think you're going to enjoy getting to know them. First of all, I have Sharlene Harvey from Cornish and Carey, Sandy Wihtol from Campi Properties, and Babette Baes from, which is a tough one to say sometimes, Babette, but she's from Campbell Realty. And I want to welcome you guys for coming on today.
Thank you.
So, thanks for coming. And I'm going to start with you, Sharlene. Right now, the weather is very warm outside. But how would you compare that with what's going on in the real estate market right now?
It's pretty hot, Brian. It's pretty hot. If you've got a place to sell, it sells quickly, and then all of a sudden you're trying to find a new place to move your people into. It can be really frustrating. There's not much to choose from, but we have a lot of buyers, and they want something now. We've got multiple offers. It's crazy.
Yeah. Sandy, how would you grade it compared to what you've seen in the past, and what has been driving the real estate market to where you've got multiple listings? And
I call it a tennis shoe market. If you can run fast enough to get there and get your clients into the house, you're going to put the deals together. But it's multiple offers. It's very frustrating for the buyers. It's great for the sellers. And the market's being driven by the economy. You know, it's not interest rates or things like that. When our economy starts firing up, our real estate market starts going. So I anticipate this is going to go on for the next couple of years. I would optimistically think that could be the case.
That'd be great for everybody.
Absolutely.
Except for buyers, perhaps. I don't know. What do you think about that, Babette?
It's still great for buyers, ones that are, ready to buy. And that's what they have to do, is go through the process of being ready and knowing how to watch for the properties. Because it is, our business is like any other, it's supply and demand. And that's what right now, we are very low on our supply. And so the demand's going up. Still, there's a whole realm for property sellers of the way they show their property and pricing it realistically. We're not going to have another crazy, 89, but we are in our regular cycle that we've been in since World War II, where all of our appreciation's been in the second half of each decade. And who knows why, but here we go again. And it's going to be a ride for the next few years, I think.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Sandy, you mentioned economic conditions have been spurring it on, driving it. What are some other things that have been driving crew here? What would be some other things that have been...
Rental. Can't find a rental.
Yeah. People, they're paying what they were paying for $1,100–1,200 a month. They're now paying $1,500 or $1,600 a month, and then that's after taxes, and there's just no benefits, and so they're going out and they're finding homes.
Yeah, and with a 10% down on a condo in a good neighborhood around here, $725 a month, your total payment. It does not make sense to rent, and that's what's driving, more sales.
With rents too, Sharlene, is it just the cost of renting versus buying? But are we lacking
Finding something.
finding something?
People get so discouraged because by the time they get there, they make their application, there's 6 other people, they're having to pay a fee, then they don't get chosen, and they get really frustrated. They rush to something in the paper, it's already gone. So you have people that are frustrated, they're ready to go, jobs are being created, there are lots of people moving in from other parts of the United States that can't find a place to live. They're excited about their new jobs, so many people are having to buy.
Well, and that goes back to the economy, talking about couples. I mean, in this area, we've got husbands and wives that have to both work in general to make things meet, and I think they both feel comfortable about their job. Whereas a couple of years ago, one or the other wasn't sure if they're going to be working in the next 6 months. So,
I agree.
and with the internet and interactive TV still to come, and the internet really creating a lot of things happening, it's just going and going and going.
Our industry's changing.
That makes for another show. I'd love to have you come back and talk about the internet.
We'll talk about that.
User-friendly.
Some other things. But what about, let's say, the economic, you mentioned husband and wives and the rents. How has been the investments of people? For example, what happened on Wall Street recently? Has that had any impact? The positive side of it and also the downside.
I see a lot of my clients that are selling stock and need to invest, or they're ready to move up. They've made some money, they're in startup companies, they've got founder stock. There's a lot of that happening, moving up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, someone had told me, and I'm not an economist, but someone had told me historically the stock market and the real estate market don't do well together. Because in 1987, when the real estate market, when the stock market took a nosedive, I remember sitting at my desk and someone said, "Did you hear what happened today?" And I said, you're kidding me. And I was thinking, oh no. And this old gentleman who was in the office, Perry, the colonel we used to call him, said, our market's just getting ready to go. And that was in 1987, and look what happened in 88, 89. So, and in this particular situation, a lot of people are making a lot of money in the stock market. They're holding on. So if the stock market adjusts, I'm not going to be surprised if it helps our real estate market.
Yeah, and a lot of people are tapping now into their 401s of companies that they're looking into, find out they can borrow, and very inexpensively. So, the stock options that they have, they're also using a portion of it to jump into the what America's all about.
Okay. How would you classify with what's going on? Is it first-time home buyers, or is it just anybody and everything? It's a free-for-all out there?
It's across the board right now because people know for their move up, prices are starting to go up. So a lot of the people that have been sitting, waiting, now see that home going from 500 to 700 that they were waiting for. Now's the time they're going to make the move before it gets out of their range. And then we have the renters coming in, so it's just a real, the market's really going.
I saw something else that's pretty exciting too. Really nice neighborhoods where people have lived for 25 or 30 years, raised their families, now they're moving to retirement.
Empty
now you
nester.
see these whole neighborhoods, they're changing. There's young families and kids, and it's great. People are moving up from their condos, their townhomes, into these nice neighborhoods to raise their families. Right?
Let me ask you the impact of, for example, China taking over Hong Kong. Has that, have we had any impact? Does that impact us now, or do you foresee that happening in the future?
Do you?
It's so hard to say. There's an influx of people coming to the country, and it's helped them. Look what it's done with the Cupertino school system. I mean, that's just one of the best.
Yeah, the all-cash buyers are nice.
We're seeing a lot of all-cash buyers.
Not really.
I know, not for the mortgage industry. But there's other things that a real estate person can really help those people with the all-cash buyers with their tax advantages, that they should think of buying that way. Because if they don't originally purchase it that way, even refi, they're not going to be able to do anything, It's those kind of money-saving things we pay for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough in a competitive market when you've got all-cash buyers versus a 20% down.
Sure.
The seller is going to notice that all-cash buyer. We are seeing a lot of those in my office.
That's why we're also, seeing more pre-approved buyers.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The pre-approved factor is a big factor in today's market. I mean, for buyers to get out there and be competitive. I mean, being pre-approved is a big feather in their cap, along with the price.
Are you speaking because there's multiple listings?
Multiple offers.
Multiple offers.
Oh, pardon me, multiple offers, pardon me. And then in multiple offers, if you've already been pre-approved?
Or just in your negotiating, you have relieved the seller of that big question, is it going to close? Because of his financing contingency. So you've taken that worry out, and you can get down to really fighting for the price for your buyer.
Okay. Is this hot market, is it just happening in the valley? Is it exclusive to our valley, or is this, I was talking to someone recently from Santa Cruz, and they're involved in the business, and they mentioned that they haven't really had the impact over there quite yet.
I have a way of looking at that, and you look at the valley, in the Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, Atherton, Menlo Park, Los Altos, it's kind of the bottom of the pond. They never really got hit by the recession and the drops in values. And as it begins to perk up and it works its way out through the outlying areas into San Jose, the Milpitas, it kind of flows up, and we're like a pond, and it flows over into the other hills into Santa Cruz, Pleasanton, East Bay. And I think that's what's happening now, because people commute into Silicon Valley, and they want to be close for good locations, good weather, and schools. And but as they start getting priced out, they do flow into other areas. So the pond's somewhat filling up pretty quickly, and it will be flowing over into those other areas.
Okay. We're going to continue our discussion when we come back. I've asked all three of our guests to provide us with tips for buyers, tips for sellers, and also some negotiating tips for you if you're interested in buying or if you're interested in selling. And when we come back, we'll continue to talk with Sharlene, Sandy, and Babette. We'll be right back.
In just one day.
Glad you came back. I hope you're still there. Our guest, I've asked them to provide us some tips for buyers and sellers, and some negotiating tips as well. And what I'm going to do is start with you, Babette. It's Babette Baes Bits for Buyers.
It wasn't mine.
It wasn't your idea, Babette, but I couldn't help it. But Babette, what are some tidbits? What are some things that buyers should be considering when they're going to purchase a home?
Well, first of all, they should realize they're probably going to end up working with a real estate person, agent, somebody to represent them, and that's the first thing that I feel they should shop for. We have all different designations in our industry. We have differences from salespeople to broker to certified residential specialist. But more important, it's like selecting your professional like a doctor. Go for referrals, but with us, you have a chance to sit down and meet, and give us an interview. You have to be very comfortable with that person to be able to ask them questions. If you've ever been to a doctor, you know that inhibits you, or an attorney. You don't want that. You want a real estate broker for life is what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
So
the first thing is selecting an agent. The second thing is select your financing and know what price range. You don't want to go out looking at homes that you fall in love with that you'd rather not have that payment, because you can be very frustrated in trying to find something that will satisfy you. So again, it's looking at referrals to other people, looking to your real estate broker for referrals to go over. If you're not real comfortable with the first person you sit down with, ask for a second. And get that, what we were talking about earlier, that at least a pre-qualification and a pre-approval, in your broker's hands so they can negotiate for you.
Okay, an agent, and then find a broker.
Mm-hmm.
And then is there any other tips that you would have for buyers?
There's more education that you can do for yourself. You can know as much about the whole process or as little. That's why you have to kind of let your agent know how involved you want to be. But there's all of our termite inspections, the whole inspection process, the whole disclosure process. If you've had a chance to educate yourself a little bit about it, the fear is out of it. And so it helps a lot to take care of that knowledge and the whole process of the escrow. What is escrow? What is all the terminologies we use? Because if you're not a person that'll stop and make people, give you an answer, or we get going so fast, we don't realize you're not understanding, a buyer. So getting just a basis of the terminology and all that really helps.
Okay. Sandy, you've got some suggestions. Sandy, what all suggestions for sellers? Sandy, what do you have for us?
Well, I think the biggest thing, even though the market is very hot, you don't want to miss the opportunity of creating the excitement when you first come on the market. And if there's things that need to be done to the house, whether it's painting or carpeting, and of course ask your real estate professional what the recommendations would be, but do them, because a lot of people think, well, I don't want to spend that extra $2,000 to do it. And when they come on the market, they don't come on with that bang. Possibly they don't create the multiple offers that they would like to think they were going to have. But is to do the work first, spend that little extra money, because it's somewhat of an insurance policy, because if you don't come on the right way and you don't get that activity in that first week or two on the market, or hopefully first couple of days, then people have a doubt, and that's the buyers. Why hasn't this sold in the first week or two? So even though the market's hot, you really want to do those things to make sure that it's coming on properly. The other thing, of course, is pricing. In a market where we've got appreciating values, it's still important to not, it's like a cam. Once you push it over a certain level of being too ridiculous, you're going to get people to back away, and they'll get stuck in the same quagmire that people are going, why hasn't this sold? And sometimes it's better to put it at that market value. Don't push it too high, create the excitement, then you're going to get everybody maybe wanting it. But we can't count on multiple offers forever. Not everybody that's watching the show is going to be selling in this market. So pricing is always a very important issue. And then the other thing that's important is make your house available for the agents. You want to find out who they are, get a relative time when they're going to be there. But find out who they are, what company they're with, and that way they feel a little bit more committed. But let them get to the house, and whether you're eating dinner or you're mowing the lawn, it's okay. Make the house available so they can get into the home. That's going to make them remember that, because a lot of agents really have a tough time with certain sellers and they just don't want to come back. So, and then selecting an agent, somebody that's knowledgeable, somebody that's going to be able to give you good comparables of the market, and don't hold yourself to the person that sends you something every month, because they might be sending you something every month, but every time you try to get a hold of them, they're at the post office mailing stuff out. You want somebody that can really come into the market and give you a fair evaluation, and it's going to be there for you. And there's a lot of factors, and I could go on and on with that, but it's really the individual, and don't go on the name.
Okay. Lastly, what Charlene's going to give us some tips for negotiation. There's always negotiable things in a transaction. And Sharlene, you've got for sellers and buyers, what are some areas that can be negotiated?
If you want to be honest, everything is negotiable. But you can get to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. The thing I really like about today's market is our buyers are so much more experienced. They're really very savvy, and they're coming in understanding more about the market. But typically the things that you see in negotiation are the price, that's the obvious one, can be payment of inspections, who's going to pay for repairs, credits. You can get a credit for carpet, a credit for repairs, credits at close of escrow, credits for non-recurring closing costs. You also can negotiate possession, very strong, especially if you have a hot market and you are a renter going month to month and your seller has to find another place. Negotiation on possession date. And personal property, there might be a refrigerator, washer, dryer, or some thing that you really like that is personal property. But the thing I'm finding is this is where you let your realtor really work for you. This is where a real estate agent has experience, and they're going to stand in your shoes and they're going to represent you and get you the best deal. We're not emotionally involved. We care, but it's not our money nor our house. So we can really represent you very well. And let us go in there and negotiate. And remembering all the time that if you get too tough, either from the buyer or the seller's side, you can antagonize the other side and they won't want to do anything for you. So that's where a professional comes in, where we have experience and we can give and take and make this whole thing work. Because fair market value is established by a willing seller and a willing buyer. And that says to me that everybody's happy. They're happy on both sides. There isn't anybody feeling they were taken advantage of. But negotiation, that's the fun part. That's the part we all look forward to.
I know that to be true with these three. They were negotiating with their seats, and they all got what they wanted. And there was some negotiating going on, and they were all very happy. I have a few quick questions for you guys. It's not dealing directly with real estate, but I told you this was going to happen, and this is the moment of truth.
Oh.
Okay. So the first question is that for tips in gardening for the fall and winter. You've got all this brush around and you want to go ahead and improve your gardening. What are two things that you should consider doing when getting ready for your gardening season for the next year?
I personally have a gardener, so I give her a call and tell her.
I think you want to clean up and build up the soil properly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to clean up and then build up the soil.
Get rid of all the extra.
Get rid of the extra.
Okay.
And allows the birds to come in, they're happy. But I was actually reading this, and the birds like to come in and eat all the little insects that are there for your gardening needs. Second question is, if you're going to wallpaper, what's the undercoating of the wallpaper called?
Well, it's sizing, Brian.
Sizing?
Sizing, yeah.
Okay, that's correct. Sizing's the answer. And the last question. Orange muffins and smoked duck breast are...
pickled pig's feet, I think, on that one. Isn't that?
I think
no,
you're right.
No, it's not.
No?
It's 2 pears, peeled, cored, and pureed.
Oh.
We set you guys up, actually. I gave Sandy the answers.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But pickles pig feet is the wrong answer, Sandy. So
Okay.
but
Thank you, Brian.
hors d'oeuvres, just so you know, hors d'oeuvres, if you have orange muffins with smoked duck breast, besides the orange muffins and duck breast, what else is there? Well, it's 2 pears, peeled, cored, and pureed.
So the pickled
I think we
pig's
missed
feet
that
wasn't...
That wasn't the right answer, Sandy.
Throw that card out.
We want to thank our guests, Sharlene Harvey from Cornish and Carey, Sandy Wihtol from Campi Properties, and Babette Baes from Campbell Realty for joining us today. When we come back, Greg Flowers will be with us talking about supply and demand. Guest, he'll be here every week, so he's always special, and he's always Greg Flowers. And Greg, what do you got for us?
Well, today we're going to be talking about supply and demand. As I'm sure you probably heard through our panel of guests, supply and demand is a very big factor. And supply and demand economics really is a broad theory, but it's also very, very profound. The thing about supply and demand is that as supply decreases, which is what we're seeing in today's real estate market, as it decreases and demand increases, prices have nowhere to go but up. Actually, to further illustrate this, I have a graphic that I'd like for you to look at very quickly. Actually, what supply and demand involves is supply are what goods are available for sale, and demand is what consumers will purchase. And that also has a very profound impact in our real estate market. And again, to reiterate that, as supply decreases, demand and demand increases, prices have nowhere to go. The real estate market in San Jose is relatively a fixed market. So there's only so many homes for sale, and as demand increases, as the work increases and the economy increases, people purchase more homes, they rent more homes, prices have nowhere to go but up. So that's what we're seeing. Also, the Bay Area has very, very strong economic conditions as well. So the housing and the rental market will continue to rise. And as you've seen through our realtors, you'll also see that price increase probably about for the next couple of years. So what does this all mean to you as the homeowner? If you've just been pre-approved for a home that is maybe $150,000 in a purchase price, and prices increase, that 2-bedroom or that 3-bedroom home has now become a 2-bedroom, or the home has now maybe become a condominium, and then maybe at the end of the year, that 150 now may need to be 160. And if your income stays the same and prices increase, the key thing here is your purchasing power is decreasing. So the pre-approval is very important. Make sure you get pre-approved when you do your home purchase, and act very quickly, and get together with a realtor. And Brian, I think it's very important for them to just get out there and start making offers.
Okay. Let me ask you, Greg, how would you compare with what's happening right now? It seems like the housing market's full steam ahead. We're starting to see rises in the prices of homes. Is that correct, first of all?
Yes.
Okay. How do you see this compare to '89 do you remember '89 enough to where, what caused the big housing boom then, right, and what's going on now?
I think it was it was a surge in the economic conditions in the Bay. And also, it kind of fed upon itself, almost like a feeding frenzy. When people saw that homes were going up 2 or 3% a month, they said real estate is a great investment in California. Then everybody dove in. Then outside investors dove in and started buying property for rentals. And that's kind of what's happening now. The Silicon Valley is experiencing tremendous job growth, which is expected to increase through the next couple of years. So we will see these prices continue to increase, not in the same fervor that it was in '89, because things aren't quite that helter-skelter, but they're still very strong.
Okay. As far as the development market today in housing, does that mean that when developers see this, they want to start producing homes they get to fit the demand?
Sure, sure.
What usually happens in a situation like that?
Well, you have to remember, too, this isn't Arizona or it isn't Nevada, where there's just land everywhere as far as you can see. We're in a valley.
I saw a tree fort being built.
Well, you may want to go up. You may want to. But what it is we're in a valley, and the land is fixed. And it's just the way of what's available. The demand definitely exceeds the supply. Supply is relatively fixed.
Okay. How do you foresee, if you were to forecast what we can expect over the next year or two? What would you forecast?
Continued growth. I think you may see dips and doodles in the different slow times, like during the holidays, Christmas, things kind of taper off. People are moving into the area. Colleges are starting. New homes or new children are going back to school. Things of that nature. This is a very hot time, is in the spring and in the late summer, early fall. So right now it's really tight. I'd say for the next 2 years, besides the dips and doodles, continued up.
Great, Greg. A tough time with that. I had Babette Baes on. I've had a tough time.
Great.
Thank you. We want to thank you for viewing with us today. I hope you learned something. When you watch our programs, hopefully you'll bring a piece of paper and pen, because I think with the people we'll have on, they can give you some great information for the real estate market. We want to thank you for joining us again. If you have any questions, if you were to want to get a hold of Greg or myself or anybody at First Portfolio, or if you'd like to get some information from our guest today, then feel free to go ahead and give us a call at First Portfolio. And that number should be on your screen at the end. That's 559-1700. And you can also write us. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer on the air, we'll be glad to do that for you. So we want to thank you for joining us once again. We hope you join us next week. We'll be having a tax accountant on with an appraiser, and we're going to look forward to having them on next week. So God bless, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. We'll see you later. So.